Good evening and welcome to All About Money. I'm your host, Dhruv Tikekar. Mental health is an important but often overlooked part of many of our lives, even more so when it comes to our relationship with work and the lifestyle associated with it. Whether it's the fear of job cuts, the overtime we put in, the deadlines we're rushing to meet, the hustle culture, or just the competitive nature of our industry, that's all to say it takes a mental toll. And companies have to take stock of that. That's what one platform is hoping to do. Well, joining me to talk about her work is Terry Wu. She's the founder of Bien-être World, a platform that provides mental health support for corporations and, by way of them, the individuals that make up these corporations. Terry, thanks so much for speaking to us today.
Thank you, Dhruv. Very welcome.
And I guess just to get the ball rolling on our conversation today, could you tell us a little bit more? Obviously, I'd laid the groundwork a little bit with the introduction over there to your company, but could you tell us a little bit more about Bien-être World, how you've been functioning, and what was the inspiration for setting it up?
Thank you for the question. Actually, I am based in France. I'm based between France and Hong Kong. And my background was more than 20 years working in finance industry in Hong Kong. But most of the time, I've been working for European companies and funds. So what inspired me is actually my family moved from Hong Kong back to France in summer 2020. And with all my experience, I do wanted to launch a service and a business that will benefit the people in Hong Kong, work people in my industry and other industries that's very close to my heart. So day one, I have this idea from actually many years of research and experience. And moving to France during COVID, it really makes me think what is the most important thing. So we hear a lot of talk about mental health because suddenly it's front and foremost most important. And because I am working remotely like everybody else, but I'm not even in Hong Kong. Right. So I thought about using technology.
And in terms of the name itself, obviously this for those of us who don't speak French, what does the name mean and where does it come from?
So bien-être is the French word for well-being, exactly. And world is actually our world, okay? It's not just the physical world, it's the corporate world. So we have this idea to launch a mental health service for Bien-être World is the corporate world, okay? And world we mean is cross-border. So day one, we're quite special. I did a lot of study about US-based or France-based mental health platforms. But today, we are actually at the beginning of this whole movement that not many are offering cross-border mental health support.
Why specifically focus on corporations? You'd mentioned over there that you deal with corporations. Why focus on this business-to-business B2B model that you have?
Okay, I feel one of the key things we have 4 Ps. I will introduce that. So one of the first Ps is purpose. It's Bien-être World's purpose, and we also want to bring purpose to corporations. Now, traditionally, corporations has been about numbers and performance and bottom line profit. Now we are still in COVID, but one day we'll be out of the COVID. And I think the future is more about humanity and the planet. So we come to this concept about ESG. So we want to bring this whole purpose, renewed purpose for companies.
And sorry, this renewed purpose would be a focus on mental health.
Yes, so I touch on humanity. So being human, I think being Asian, I know very well when we speak about mental health, there's a big negative bias. In fact, everyone has a physical health, which is our body, and we want to take care of mental health, but in the corporate context. That is to say, big corporations on top of making money, making a lot of deals, we all have a record year in the finance industry, is to treat the staff right. And every human has a mental health. It could be positive, it could be negative. It's okay to not to be okay. And it's okay to face it and speak about it and take care of it.
I have two questions for you. One is, did you receive a lot of inertia from the corporate world when you decided to go ahead with this project? And if so, what were some of the challenges of dealing with that inertia head on?
Oh, the inertia is actually, mental health itself is something that is very complicated and complex. A lot of people know very little about, okay? So the inertia is just like jumping into an ocean at night. When it's dark, when there's something you don't know, there is fear. So the fact that we launched the business, we want to directly talk to all these corporations, human resources. There are twofold, okay? So I come from a global corporate world. If it's a global bank or global law firm, for example, or Big Four accounting firm, they are very international. They understand ESG is important. These international firms know mental health is important. So there's less inertia. But so the other part is like local firms, more local businesses, big companies that are homegrown in Hong Kong, Asian management, they will have more inertia naturally.
You say naturally because we're in Asia, or is there any other particular reason for that?
It's cultural because I'm Chinese from Hong Kong. I grew up in Hong Kong, but I lived in many countries. In the Western world, people are less shy to talk about mental health. Asians, as I mentioned earlier, have this negative bias towards mental health. They think mental health equates to mental illness, and nobody likes to be seen as ill or not well. But, instead of, hiding it, we should talk about it. We should bring it out in the open and deal with it. Whether you're healthy or not healthy, we do have a mental health.
And you talked about dealing with it. How do you go about getting these corporations? Walk us through your programs. How do you go about getting these corporations to adopt certain methods with dealing with their employees, or getting their employees on board with a program like yours? How does that process work?
Sure. So a lot of international firms already have what we call first generation EAP programs, employee assistance programs. So it may or may not cover mental health, just like a lot of insurance offered by companies. It may or may not cover mental health. So we want to make the access very easy by using technology that it's actually an app. Our platform is a website, an app, and also a third-party consultation for human resources. So the app is really easy to use. Like nowadays, we all use apps. And why do I want to have an app? Because it's in your pockets. Okay, we offer it both on iOS and Android. App also, we make use of technology to bring psychologists to this part of the world. So we can talk about the supply and demand later, but basically in Asia, we don't have enough well-trained psychologists for the population. So with technology, I could actually bring the psychologists to Hong Kong without physically flying them here. So you can use video consultation, what we call, and also we make use of technology for data privacy to make sure everything is encrypted. We use a lot of technology to make sure we meet the European standard in data privacy. So with privacy, we hope that there will be more confidence that people will step up and talk about mental health.
Why focus specifically on the privacy aspect? Obviously, it's an important part of discussing mental health, but why have that focus on it?
Yes. So we talk about the 4 Ps. I touched on the purpose of corporations. The second P, we greatly talk about is privacy. So when you talk about mental health, it's such a personal thing, you know. It's even people don't want to talk about themselves, especially if it's maybe a practitioner or psychologist provided by the company. So far, that's the first generation EAP mental support. Often, the first generation was a telephone hotline. Employees more than likely feel uncomfortable disclosing the actual problem, and it may have repercussions to their career or may even cost their jobs. I'm not saying this is the reality, but there is this lack of trust that the information will be passed back to their own human resources. So with the app and with European data standards, we hope to give more confidence to the users.
Terry, we do have a lot to break down over there, but we do have to go to a quick break. For those of you watching, stay tuned. We'll be right back.